Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video I'll be going through the Carlton Football Club AFL Fantasy Preview for 2024, going through a lot of their big names as well as some of their rookie or mid prices, as there is a little bit of value, at least a lot of the AFL fantasy community is talking about Zach Williams in particular. So we'll go through him and what we actually should be expecting and why when we say that he is almost a must-have, that it doesn't actually mean that he's a keeper, etc., and all that. And just looking through here quickly, there isn't much else other than that for Carlton, as we have a lot. We don't know the rookies as of yet, to be honest, and they do have that round zero bye. So before we get into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into the video. So as you can see here, Sam Doherty, and I have all the Carlton people up here, and so we'll go through Sam Doherty first. So if I scroll down to my notes of him, if we go here, there we go. So Sam Doherty is mid only, and a 104 average from last year I don't really see there being much upside, to be honest. He obviously doesn't have the defender status, and I only really see a regression, him being 30. If we look here, and you can see he was -5 in the last year from moving from a defender to a more wing role. And as you see, that -5 didn't really obviously help. He did have the 79 and the 74 here, as you can see. But it didn't live up to the 110 that he had in 2022. And he has had a career high of 117 in 2017, as you see here. But other than that, he has been sort of a 90 sort of guy for most of his career, actually. 22 and 20 games, so that's 86 games out of his 160 or 170 have been 100 plus. But I just don't see him having much upside with the new players coming. Well, Walsh coming back, as well as Cripps, as well as Newman, as well as Hewitt, as well as Kennedy, all in there. I don't really see him getting a massive midfield role. If we look at the CBA splits here, you'll see. If we go here, you'll see Cripps 79%, Pitnet 70. I expect something similar there. Hewitt 59, Chera 57. Walsh 55, I expect that to clip up a little bit, as it was actually a lot lower in the regular season, and then in the finals he went 67, 58, 79, which we'll get to. But Tom de Koning as well, Paddy Dow, who left, but he was only really relevant when Shearer was out, which we'll get to. Kennedy, and then Ed Kerner obviously left as well. And Fisher left as well, but he was negligible. Lewis Young, Silvani. So no one here really, and you can see Sam Doherty here, 22% CBAs, a huge CBA patch here, but if you look at it here, you can see it was the time when both Walsh and Shearer, and also it was a game when at least two of their star midfielders were out injured. So that sort of meant that he was only really getting midfield time then in 19, 20, and 21. 19 to 23, I guess. And if you look at his stats here, you'll see 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. And you can see that he fared all right, but he didn't fare. It wasn't a massive leg up like we've seen with some other guys when they get midfield time, i.e. Flanders, and they go from like an 80s average to like a 110. So anyway, that is sort of my thoughts on Sam Doherty, and I do think he will get sort of a wing role in 2024. I think Elijah Holland's obviously being suspended for 2 games, and then you've got, is it Ollie Hollands on the other wing? Is it Ollie Hollands? Where is he? Yeah, Ollie Hollands on the other wing. So I don't expect him to, honestly, I expect him to play the wing role quite a lot, and then also to play a little bit off that half-back flank. So he does have a muddled role a little bit, so I don't expect him to return to have any value. And I think there's just better value guys in that midfield at 104, 105 that can progress up towards that sort of 110, 115 range potentially. Nick Newman is the next guy, and he came home like a house on fire, I guess, with the ending that he ended up with L3 of a 115 and an L5 of 124. And he finished 23, as I said, 2023 on fire, and was given the green light to distribute the ball. If we look at, this is 2023, you'll see he didn't really actually get the kickouts comparatively to Mitch McGovern and Adam Sard. No one here, as you can see, only 40 out of 40, but he was getting those extra kicks every single time. But that doesn't really show anything, to be honest. If we go to 2023, here you go. You can just see this end to the season: 123, 139, 138, 125, and 82. Even just almost post by after that 68, he went 108, 108, 93, and then also went in the last 5, obviously, as we said, a 124. So if we go and just quickly do the maths for that, you will see that his average in the last 8 was a 116, which is a ridiculous average. It's one of the best you would get in the whole comp through the last 8 games. Up there, that would be, I think, if he was to expand that for the whole season, which he won't, that would be up there with the top sort of bonds level, sort of around that pricing of a 1.05 mil. But obviously he didn't, because he had this slowish start here and had an injury game of 27, which I'll probably look into further quickly here. Let me just see this injury game, because if we have this injury game over 27 against the Swans, they may have even sent a tagger to him, as Walsh might have not been playing round 11. Let's just look. Walsh was playing round 11, and we'll get to what he scored in that game just to see if they were taking him, but they could have easily sent Ryan Clark to Nick Newman to just shut him down and stop that. But obviously that won't happen this year. And then Nick Newman did get injured. I remember a lot of the Carlton guys got injured. But if you look at the, if we just take that game into account and we discount it from him, then he averages 101.55. So there is a potential upside for him. But we could obviously also see a massive regression. As you see, he's had 190 season, and then the rest have been sort of 80s and 70s, so he could massively regress. I don't think he will. I think he'll go low 90s. I think there will be a little bit of regression, but not the major regression back to the 86s that we've seen before, as he is already 31, and that starts to become an age where players start to slow down a little bit. And I just think in terms of Nick Newman and selecting him, if we go over to here, you'll see that he's 885k, and I would rather take a punt on Wanganeen Malira jumping from 820k up towards that sort of, which is around that 92, 93, up towards that sort of 101, 102, rather than Nick Newman going to the next level. And I feel like Nick Newman is obviously one that we can just pick up post-buy or something like that when they have a much look. And we look here, round 14, he's got Richmond, Geelong, who we expect to be outside the 8, Richmond, who we expect to be outside the 8, GWS, who we expect to be around the marker, then Western Bulldogs, a lot of us expect them to not be in the 8, North, we expect them to be bottoms, and then you got Port, Collingwood, and then another fair, decent run at it again. He obviously might cop the Hawks tag from McGuinness, but that could go to about 4 different players, and it's more likely to probably go to Walsh than to him anyway. So just looking at this run, he's got 2 tough teams in Port and Collingwood at the moment. Obviously that will change, but I'm really liking that run out of his bye in particular. Then we go to the next guy in Adam Shearer, and he averaged 96.6 in the previous season, which is somewhat of a breakout. If we then change this over to Adam Shearer, here we go, and then we go fantasy profile, and I don't need another ad. And then you'll see here 96.6, a big breakout for him, if you want to call it that, from the 87 and the 88 that he was averaging in 21 and 22. Was getting 57% of the CBAs here, you can see. And he only really had round 9, round 7, round 5, and then also this round 20 game. where he wasn't getting CBAs. If you look at, if we change this as well to Chera, it should be somewhere here. Where is it? Here we go. You'll see that Western Bulldogs game, he did have, I think, a little bit of time off in that game. I don't think he played the fullish game there, but he definitely didn't play this Collingwood game, which we'll discount in a second. But with Chera, he was getting 57% CBAs. If you look at 2022 numbers, you'll see Chera got 55%, so I think it is a common sort of hold there as well for him. 16, and I'll have to look at why he only got 0% against St Kilda. But I think that 57%, 60%, somewhere around there is around the marker we'll get from Adam Chera. And I don't think it will be, and I don't see any rise realistically with him in CBAs, given that, as we discussed earlier, Paddy Dow, if you look at the lineup here, was only massive CBA numbers when, where is it here? When Chera, if we look at this line here, was out, and you see 67 with him out, 21% when Chera had the 36%, which lines up to the 57% that Chera averaged across season. I know that that's just a happy coincidence. And then 68, 71, 69 when Chera was out, and then Paddy Dow had one game where he had a 68% CBAs, but that was because Paddy Cripps was out that game in round 24 against GWS. So he does have, I believe, 2 injury games to add to this 62 and this 66, I believe, are injuries. So if you discount them, then his score increases to 100.4, and that sort of is just shy of 4 points of upside, injury upside. So there is potentially a little bit, but I don't think with the early buy and the no apparent increase in role or CBAs, I wouldn't be selecting Chera to start 2024 AFL Fantasy, and that's why he is 0.69% owned. Next up is probably the most talked about, I would say, guy on an early buy that is sort of not definite, because he presents so much value, and it isn't like a Grundy or one of those mid prices that have a lot more definite sort of value in Grundy, Jordan, Adams, Zach Williams, just to name a few. And Sam Walsh finished the regular season with a very slow L3 of 72, I believe it is, and L5 of 79. That is in large part due to the injured 53 and 34% time on ground in round 19 against the Eagles. So that did obviously tear apart his L3 and L5. You see here that 34%, he was on 14 disposals after about a quarter and a half. That was probably closer to halftime, to be honest with you, about 5-10 minutes ago in the second. So yeah, he obviously would have gone on and probably put up a 120 there if we're going by sort of his time on ground and what his points were at. So with that injury removed, he already has 3 points of upside, and in the finals, when he did return to full fitness, he averaged 68% CBAs, which, if we look up here, is already a plus 13% on CBAs, and also 115.3 fantasy points. So there is obviously a chance for him to be anywhere upwards of 20 points of upside. If you look at that, I don't think he will go 115, but he could easily go back to 110s, as I believe, if we go here and switch it to Walsh. Where is he? Here he is. I believe you'll find that he has had a 110 season. Yeah, he had a 109 in 2021, a 103 in 2022, and if I just quickly do the maths, in 2020, in his second year, he had a 77.4, which is actually equivalent to a 96.5. So he's gone 92, 96, 109, 103, 94. I think there is massive scope for him to be able to increase up towards that 110 again, which would be 15 points of upside. And the problem we have at the moment is just, are we going to catch him are we going to be able to catch him out after his buy in round 4, round 5? And at what price are we going to catch him? Because if he goes, say he goes 100, 110, 110, I believe that'll put him somewhere around, given his price at 95, sorry. That'll put him somewhere around probably around the 890 or so heading into his buy. And then if you look at the fixtures, then he's got North and then Freo, and then can you get him for the Adelaide run here? And that'll be interesting to see what other people do, because he is 30% owned, and if it wasn't for the early buy, I reckon he would be somewhere close to 60%. And if he does pop off in the say he goes 140, 145 in the round 0, it's almost going to be hard not to get him, because he's just gonna absolutely go crazy. He could obviously go crazy and get up to that sort of 950 before his buy round, and that almost means that he's ungettable. Sort of what we were saying with the likes of Nick Dacos previously. So it'll be interesting to see what other people do depending on his round 0 score, because if he goes and scores a 70 in round 0, then I'm fairly confident that he will not only he will lose cash, he'll go down to 830k or 840k. It'll be tough for him to really get out of that. Even if he goes 110, 110, 110, and then a further 110, he probably only starts getting above that 850k by the time round 4, round 5, if he went 70 in round 1. So I'm really interested to see what happens with Walsh in round 0 and what lines people have for that. So drop it in the comment section below what your sort of line for Sam Walsh is. But anyway, next on the agenda is Paddy Cripps. Just looking here, 17 minutes, that's fine. Paddy Cripps here, and you can see he obviously doesn't, he's one of the players that will get high in the Brownlow but not really do much around the ground in terms of AFL fantasy points. Only 88 last year, and if we look here at the stats, if we go up, where is Paddy Cripps? There we go. 88.4, 21 games played, and he had a 45 as well here, and he had some shockers overall. So it'll be interesting to see, because he only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 scores of 100 plus. And if we look at many of the other players like Bont and stuff like that, I think they only had about 3 or 4 sub 100 games. So he had around 2/3 of his games sub 100, whereas Bont and stuff like that had about 10%. So it's just shows, I think, the difference between Paddy Cripps and Bont in terms of scoring at the moment. If we do look at his past stats here, if we go to Patrick Cripps, there we go, you'll see that he isn't in the past, he hasn't been the worst fantasy scorer. 2018, he averaged 109, 2019, 101, and even in 2022, he averaged 102. So there has been years where he does this, where he goes off and then goes off 1 year and then has a down year and then picks it back up. So it'd be interesting to see what he actually averages. Like I said, 109 previously. So there is potentially 20 points of upside there from his 2023 average of 88.3. But when you actually take a deeper dive into Paddy Cripps, and I'll do it this way. I'll open new link and new tab here. You'll see what I was actually doing my research on and why I think he has had this sort of dip. If we look at here, you'll see it here. So back when, if we look at his best 2 seasons here, 2018 and 2019, and then also 2022, you'll see here 2022, 1.02 points per minute, and then his 2018-19 was 1, and then 0.91, sorry. So that really doesn't show as much, but it shows a little bit that he does tend to obviously score better when his points per minute are better. So it seems like he has a role that isn't points per minute, generating points per minute. Even in 2021, you saw that with a 0.78. 2020, when he averaged 75, adjusted up to what did we say? That's probably going to be a 94. 75.3 times 1.25 is a 94.1. That was an 0.87, points per minute. But the biggest factor I think that is so obvious here is that in 2019 and 2018, in 2018 he had 89% time on ground. In 2019 he had 90% time on ground. Ever since then he hasn't gotten over 85%. 85% in 2020, 84% in 2021, 81% in 2022, and then an 81% as well in 2023. There seems to be a massive 10% dip in time on ground. So when you combine that with a potential, it seems to be about a 10% dip in time on ground, and roughly his point per minute is volatile and it's bouncing up and down, but it seems like his worst seasons are about a 10% dip in that as well. So that sort of combines, and that's why you see those 18, 20 points down on his best season. So I'm just wondering if he does return to a best points per minute sort of role in getting that towards that one, as that is his best, or whether he will have a better season in terms of time on ground when he gets up towards that 100 range, because, not 100, towards that 90 range. As that'll really help to get his points back up towards that 100-point marker. And 100 points is 12 points of upside. Don't really like it too much. But if he can push that 105, 110 again, then that is obviously a massive upside for him, being over 20 points or upwards of 20 points. So with the early buy and the hyper end around Walsh, I don't see there being too much value currently with Cripps. But if he goes 120 or 130 in the first game in round 0, then he may just be a guy that you can use just because of his price, and because he could jump very, very quickly up towards that 950k range if he goes and pops off early. And then that can pretty much save you 150k or something like that. But anyway, next up, so I wouldn't still be picking him, because I feel like even with what I've just said, he's very likely to just go 190, 100, 105 or something like that, and that'll see him push towards that mid to high 800ks and be almost one of the first upgrade targets, as there'll still be meat on the bone by the time that you get him. Zach Williams is the last guy that we sort of have to talk about here. If we go down, where is he? He's in my side. So yeah, there we go. 35% owned, even with the early buy. And as a content creator, I'm not saying that Zach Williams is going to automatically return back to his career best form of, where is it here? Let me bring this up. Zach Williams, here we go. He's not going to return back to his career best form of 92. We're not saying that he's got 50 points of upside. And we're not saying that because he returns to the park, he'll do that. Nor am I saying that he'll be a keeper for the whole season. That is very, very unlikely. That is probably like a 0.1% chance that actually happens, as the defenders are roughly about 100, so he'd need 8 points of upside on his career best year, and as we said, he's probably not even going to return to his career best year. However, I am saying at 442k, and a proven scorer in the past of 80 to 90 when he is fit, that he will outdo his price tag most likely, and which is 48.9, and all we need from him is sort of 7 good weeks of 75, 80 points production, and that'll probably see him climb roughly towards that 630 to 650k range. I reckon that'll be around that marker, and then combine that with a rookie, and then you could honestly, and I've been thinking about this a lot and speaking with some people about it, you could honestly almost get him with a rookie up to 900k premium midfielder, and then slide McKercher back, as McKercher's got the halfback role, so he will be a defender in round 6 with DPPs. So it'll be interesting to see. Or you could just get a Sinclair or a Newman after they've sort of settled and you know what they're going to be output-wise for the year. But I do expect, one thing I am expecting from Williams is for him to jump 200 or so K across the first 7 to 8 weeks if he does have a good round 0 to and round 7 stretch. So that is basically what we're talking about with Zach Williams. If we go back to his kick-in numbers in 2021, you will see that he did have, if we look here, where is he? 25 kick-ins, 21 played on. So there is a role there, but not as much as obviously Nick Newman, and also there will be probably McGovern there taking a lot as well. Played 9 games in 2022 as well, so we can look at that as well. In 2022, he had 34 kick-ins and was used actually as the majority kick-in across the first sort of 6 weeks. So if we actually look at that and you look at the first sort of 6 weeks, and then what did you do in round 8? He did a little bit, and then round 9 played but didn't do anything. So if we actually look at Williams here, I think you will see a sort of trend, or how do we put it? If we look here, 2022, you'll see, where is it? Time on ground, here we go. So if we look here, and then he also played in the last game of the season in 2022. If we look here, he played for a 58, but he's got a 4 in there as well. So even that, so 9 games of 69%. 9 games for 69.9 in 2022 with an injured 4. So if we take out, and this is sort of what what I'm showing on the screen is sort of what I'm expecting from Williams. Obviously that 31, I am not expecting that. Whereas his 2022, he had a 89% time on ground for a 31. I hope he doesn't pull that in round 0, else there is going to be a lot of swapping around. But if you look at that and you go 9 times 69.9, 69 minus the 58, minus the 4, divide that by 7. In the first 8 rounds, he averaged, in the 7 games that he played from rounds 1 to round 8, he averaged 81. If we got something like that, and then you could jump off after round 7 and then jump onto a premium, if you actually look at his price a little bit, you'll see that even with that, he only jumped 97k in that, but that is obviously because he stuffed his break even with the 31, and if he doesn't do that, if you actually look at it in rounds 2 to round 8, in the space of 6 games, he actually jumped up with a bad break even up towards upwards of 125k. So if he doesn't have a bad game, he will jump up a lot more, and I'm expecting him, if we look at his previous years, let's look at 2021 might be a better look. 626, nothing here really. I think they have changed the way it works just slightly, but 2019 I think will give you a better sort of indication. And you can see here he went from 421 upwards, even with, look at how poor that is, average wise in the first sort of 8 to 9 weeks, and he still went up 140k with, what's that? I'm gonna actually do this on the spot for you guys, just quickly to get his average across that first couple of weeks here in this season that we're looking at in 2019. But if you look at that, that's divided by 9. He averaged 79.9 in that with a couple of really, really poor weeks here, as you can see, and he still went up 140k. So yeah, I'm expecting something sort of similar with this. As you can see, he had a really poor week there. If he just has 60 plus in every single game, he will jump up massively. And I'm pretty sure also, if I remember correctly, 421, if you look, would be a 30% discount on the 883. So I'm just trying to work this out in my head, what he was actually priced at for you guys. He was priced at 58.1 for this as well. So that is why you're seeing a little bit slower cash gen, is because he was priced 10 points higher. So that is why why his cash gen is a little bit worse. So if you take that into account, he's effective. This would be roughly, if we did the numbers and stuff like that, if we were to make a very simple approach, this would be roughly this sort of cash gen, 140k in the first 8, 120k in the first 8 sort of weeks, on an average of, or 120k in the first, 140k in the first 9 weeks, on an average of about 69 would be what we're looking at. So if he goes a little bit higher than that, goes 75, 80, and actually matches the scores that you see here, I reckon it will be somewhere around that. He'll be around that 600, 620, 640k, somewhere in that region there, depending on if he has a poor game or not, because he has a 53 and a 43 in this. If he'd gone a little bit larger in either of these two games, he would have got his break even in check, and that would have made massive leaps in his price. But anyway, that pretty much is what we're talking about with Carlton here. In terms, it is a very long video. I sort of got sidetracked a little bit, 30 minutes, but that is pretty much the Carlton preview for 2024. Probably the longest preview, just because of with this round 0 bye, and with them having sort of 3 to 4 very, very valuable players for fantasy in terms of having upwards of 20 points of upside, even without them looking into their rookies. It's going to be interesting to see the shakeout after round 0 of Walsh, potentially Newman. I could see potentially people jumping on him, but he doesn't really have much upside. But definitely Cripps, Walsh, and Zach Williams will be interesting to see their round 0 shakeout. But anyway, that is the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.